वहन्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। So Hari Om, salutations to one and all. We have been doing the Ganapati Atharva Shirsha and we have completed 4 mantras so far. In the last mantra that we saw, mantra 3, the Lord is indicated as of the nature of consciousness, of the nature of bliss, Chinmayaha, Anandamayaha, Brahmamayaha as infinite, as Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, and as what we experience moment by moment. It is not some very abstract idea. From Pratyaksham Brahmasi, each moment we experience as Aham, I am, and Tvam Jnanamayo Vijnanamayosi. Now, we also see this whole world, and human being always has this curiosity that from where did this world come, and who is this creator, how did he create this whole world. So the intellect that we have always has this question about the cause of the creation, the method of this creation, and we also want to hold the creator responsible for what we go through in life. So when we especially have difficulties in those difficult times, then we want to we remember the Lord and we want to ask the Lord why this is happening. And we want that, Gurudev used to joke a little bit and he would say, we want to hold the Lord by collar and ask him, why did this happen to me? So because we don't find the reasons that why am I going through something. So our mind always wonders that what can be the cause for all this. So now this mantra 5 speaks about the Lord as the cause of this universe. So he says, Sarvam jagadidam tvatto jayate, Sarvam jagadidam tvattas tisthati, Sarvam jagadidam tvailayameshyati, Sarvam jagadidam tvai pratyeti, Tvam bhumirapo nalo nilo nabhaha, Tvam chatvari va akpadani. So he says, Sarvam jagadidam tvatto jayate. This whole universe arises from you. Sarvam jagadidam tvattas tisthati. This whole universe stays in you. Sarvam jagadidam tvai layameshyati. And it goes back into you. Sarvam jagadidam tvai pratyeti. It appears in you. And you only have become this whole universe also. So all the 5 elements, Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Nilo, Navaha, space, air, fire, water, earth. All this is your manifestation. And you are the 4 stages of speech. Tvam Chatvari Vakpadani. So now, Jagat, when we use the word Jagat, generally what do we think when we say the word Jagat? What is outside us is what we think is the world. So various things, various beings, that constitutes the world. But we exclude our body, mind, intellect from that. For somebody else, we are a part of their world because we are external to them. So in Vedanta, we say that whatever can be indicated as this, that is called as the world. So we say this body. Just like we say this computer, this book, this body. So this body also is a part of the world. The emotions that we go through, that is also a part of this world. And the intellectual thoughts, ideas, desires, that also is a part of this world. So in Vedanta, when we say Jagat, it means the world of objects, emotions, thoughts. This whole thing is called as Jagat, body, mind, intellect, object, emotions, and thoughts. This entire thing is called as Jagat. And what is the meaning of Jagat? So many people, they are lost in their own world also. What we say, the world of doctors, the world of scientists, the world of artists. Each one has their own common collective field of experience. When all of them come together, let us say, and they have a brainstorming, then that's a world of doctors who are brainstorming. The world of artists, sportsmen. So each in this whole Jagat, there are these small groups also. Somebody is lost in their own world of daydreaming. Somebody has their own goals and ambitions, and that is a world for them. So world includes all these things. But the fundamental meaning of the word Jagat is something that can be indicated as this. That is one meaning. So which is not I. The real I is not the Jagat. The real I is the experiencer of Jagat. So when we inquire into the nature of this world, what we find, the etymological meaning of the word Jagat is that which is born, Jayate, Ja, and which changes, Gachati, which perishes. In between, Tishtati, as though it stays, Tishtati Iva. Meaning the world is of the nature of continuous change. Every single moment there is tremendous change happening inside our body, outside us, in the emotions we go through, in our thoughts. This entire world of continuous change is called as Jagat. So from where did this whole universe come? Definitely the universe did not come from us. We did not create it. We are a part of the creation. When we say we, it means the body, mind, intellect is a part of this creation. Science also is searching for the cause of the creation. What is the cause of creation? So two aspects we see so far. One is that world includes anything that can be pointed out as this. Second, it is continuously changing. It is perishable. It does not remain constant. No, that's why it is called samsara. Samsara means that which continuously changes. So when we live in this world, change is a constant and everything keeps changing very fast. What is the cause of this whole universe? When we analyze, we find that the individual is not the cause of this universe. The inquiry of science is outside. So one says that proton, atom, proton, neutron, electron, string, quarks. So one will go on dissecting. But that is only a material cause of the world. There is, in any creation, there will be three causes. One will be the material cause, one will be an instrumental cause, and one will be an intelligent cause. So this whole universe has these three causes, like a pot. So pot is created from the mud. So this mud is the material cause. The potter, the intelligence of the potter is the intelligent cause. And the wheel that the potter uses is the instrumental cause. Now these three causes are required for any creation. If we say that this world is just matter, which is what traditional physicists believe, that the world is made up of matter. And how did it come about? So it came about as, through the Big Bang theory. So the Big Bang happened and then the universe is in a constant state of expansion. But what is the intelligence behind this universe? It is not a chaotic universe. There is a lot of harmony in this universe. There is a lot of rhythm in this universe. So that intelligent cause of the universe is what is indicated here as Ganesha. Ganesha is consciousness. And why do we say consciousness is the cause of the whole universe? Why can't matter be the cause of the whole universe? Because we see the play of consciousness everywhere, and inert matter cannot produce consciousness. Any combination of the inert will not produce consciousness. Consciousness is that which can appear as matter, which can enliven matter. Like the electricity can enliven the bulb, so light comes. Enlivens the music system, so sound comes. Enlivens the heater, so hot water comes. But any amount of combination of this light and music and heat will not produce electricity. What one is trying to do in this world is come to a certain mixture of matter to produce life. But we also know that anything that is produced is destructible. So how can matter produce consciousness which is infinite? That which is infinite cannot be produced at all. So the great masters, when they inquired, they also thought about all this. See, it is not that the masters have just imagined. If you go into the deep philosophy of ours, Kanada Rishi spoke about Anu, which is atom, and Paramanu, subatomic particle. So the Vaisheshika philosophy speaks about atom. So it's not that the great masters did not inquire into the world, did not find the material cause, but they said, no, this material cause cannot produce consciousness. And is it not true that today science is also coming to the same conclusion? That quantum physics, what is it saying? That matter is not the basis of the whole universe. Consciousness is the basis of the whole universe. That's what quantum mechanics says. And it is also saying about the uncertainty principle. It is also saying about what Einstein also spoke about, relativity. The whole universe is in a constant state of flux. So how can something be changing unless there is something which is changeless? So that changeless entity, which is infinite, which is consciousness, is Ganesha. So that's why in this mantra, he is saying that the whole world rises, stays and falls in you. Just like from the waker's mind, the entire dream world is created, is sustained, and it goes back. And hence the great masters, when they thought deeply about it, they also understood this fact that the creation is not a production. It is not like a pot is produced from the mud. Because the mud is finite, the pot is finite, mud is finite, the potter is also finite. Then these finite factors come together and a finite result will happen. The creation is infinite. The infinite creation cannot come from anything which is finite. So any finite cause cannot produce the creation, and infinite also cannot produce, because infinite is changeless. So how did this creation happen then? Without undergoing any change, the infinite only appears as the finite. That's why the line says, the fourth line of the mantra says, Sarvam Jagadedam Tvai Pratyeti. The whole universe appears in you. It is not a production. God has not created the world. In our culture, in Vedanta, we don't say God created the world. We say God appears as the world without undergoing any change. Just like the waker is lying on the bed. There is no change happening in the waker. But that waker is as though projecting a dream world. So the waker appears as the dream creator, the dream world, and all the creatures in the dream. and all the inner things also in the dream. This is called appearance. That's why we chant every class when we end. What do we say? Purnamadaha Purnamidam. That is Purnam. The cause is infinite. This universe, which is an effect, is also infinite. Because anything which is what we see in the world cannot have any finite cause. So then how did that infinite produce this? Purnat Purnam Udachyate. From that which is infinite, this infinite appears. Is not produced. The infinite is not producing the finite creation or the infinite creation. The infinite is not modifying to become this creation. Like milk modifies to become curd. Then milk dies, then curd remains. Infinite cannot modify, because any modification means it is finite, it is death, it is change. And we just saw in the beginning that it is that which is changeless, it is that which is infinite. So God does not create the world, God does not modify to become the world, but God appears as the world without undergoing any change. So Purnat Purnam Udachyate. God appears as this universe. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. So from this universe, from this infinite, if you remove this appearance of the universe, infinite alone remains. So if your name and form has to be removed, like from the waker's mind, if the dream is removed, the waker still remains as it is. That is consciousness. That from which the universe appears, in which it stays, into which it goes back, that changeless consciousness is this cause of this whole universe. So when we worship Ganesh Ji, we are not worshipping just an elephant-headed god, where people think that these people are all primitive, backward people who don't know anything. We know the highest philosophy, that this form is a symbol of that infinite consciousness, in whom this universe just appears and disappears. There is no real creation. Like the rope never came out of, the snake never comes out of the rope. The snake is only an appearance of the rope because of delusion. So this is highest philosophy of Vedanta, where we understand that consciousness alone is appearing as all this, as the intelligent cause of the universe, and the material cause of the universe also is consciousness alone. Like in the example of the pot, the potter is different, mud is different, and potter and mud are brought together and there is a wheel, then a separate pot is created. In this universe, it is not like that. The material cause of the universe is not outside infinity. The infinite alone appears as a material cause also. That's why he says here, Tvam Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Anilo, Nabhaha. So space, air, fire, water, earth, all these five are also appearances of consciousness alone. Just like in the dream, with what material does the waker create the whole dream world? It is his own mind. So the material for the world, dream world, comes from his own mind. The intelligence also comes from his own mind. The instrument is also his own mind. So all the three causes are one. The intelligent cause, material cause, and the instrumental cause is one. So in the Mundakopanishad, this example comes, like the spider. You see, the beautiful aspect about our rishis is, from daily life, they have given us so many such analogies and examples to explain the highest philosophies. Yathonanabi srijate grinnatecha. Like the spider creates the web from itself and again takes it back into itself. So the spider is the material cause of the web, and the intelligent cause of the web, and the instrumental cause of the web. Of course, in that, again, the example has a limitation that spider is limited, web is limited. But here it is, the infinite is the cause and the infinite just appears as this whole universe. And the best part Vedanta tells us is that infinite truth is our true self. Because when we have this question that who created this world, we assume in that there is a creator who is separate from this creation. Like potter is separate from the pot. That's a fundamental assumption. And even in science, the method of inquiry is don't assume anything. The more fundamental assumptions are questioned, the more deeper the knowledge will arise. We take many things for granted, but science will question those. And the more fundamental is the question, more deeper will be the knowledge. So if Aryabhatta or a Bhaskaracharya or a Newton, they question why do things fall down, we take it for granted, but for them it is not to be taken for granted. So they will inquire, they will question. Then the more fundamental truths will reveal. So when we ask the question, who created this world? In that there is an assumption that world is separate, creator is separate, and I am separate. So the creator, creation, creature, all are separate. It appears separate when I look at it from my body standpoint. But if I question that more deeply, then one understands, this whole universe, there cannot be a finite cause. There has to be the infinite alone. And infinite means everything is included in that. That which is not affected by time, space, objects is infinite. Time and space are a part of this creation. Just now we saw that. Nabha means space. Space is a part of the creation. Consciousness is beyond space also. So that infinite consciousness alone appears as all the three. So what does that mean? Any appearance is only illusory. It is not real. So in Vedanta, the simple law is this: when the intelligent cause, efficient cause, instrumental cause is one, then that creation is an illusion. So the dream is the best example for it. All the three causes are one, so that the dream world which is created is an illusion. But it is such an illusion that when I am in the dream, it appears very real. When I come out of that, then I understand, oh, it never existed. Nothing happened to me. I am lying on the bed. I woke up unaffected by the dream. Same way, this entire creation is just an appearance. Sarvam Jagadidam Tvai Pratyeti. It is only an appearance. And when something is an appearance, it is an appearance of what? It is an appearance of the truth. Like, what is the dream an appearance of? The waker's mind. What is a snake an appearance of? The rope. What is a mirage an appearance of? The sand in the desert. Any appearance will have a basis. It is not random. So the basis of this whole creation is consciousness. So when we live in the world with this attitude that this is an illusion, what is important to understand is when we say this is an illusion, it includes the body, mind, intellect also. Our problem is when we live in the world, we think I am this, so I am real, but the world is an illusion. So we are not able to understand at all. I am also an illusion, the world also is an illusion. Like the actor knows that this role is an illusion and the whole movie itself also is an illusion. Then we live in this world playing our roles, not that we become insensitive or we become indifferent. We don't do that because it's a role we play and we follow righteousness, we follow values, because that keeps the mind in a sattvic state to understand the deeper aspect that I am consciousness. So I play my role very well. whatever are my roles in my home, in my workplace, in the society, I play all those roles, but I don't allow those roles to define me. I don't allow the events that happen in the world to make me feel good or bad psychologically. It's just an event that has happened. Even if the mind goes through some elation or sadness, one watches, it's a play of the mind. I am consciousness which is different from it. So the whole, what we call in management, paradigm shift is this. From a finite entity who thinks that I am a part of this creation and there is a separate creator, the identity shifts that I am the consciousness in whom many waves of creation, they rise, they stay and they fall, and nothing happens to me. So an appearance will have a substratum, and the appearance can never affect the substratum. The snake can never poison that rope. The mirage water cannot wet the sand in the desert. Same way, externally this whole world, including the thoughts in my mind, they cannot touch, they cannot affect me, the consciousness. Today I have forgotten that consciousness, so I think I am a small little individual entity and my thoughts persecute me. My emotions persecute me. People out there persecute me. Anything out there is enough to disturb my mind. When this shift in thinking happens, then one is able to do everything with the deep understanding that this is only a play, this is not real. And I will play my role to the best, knowing deeply well this is not real at all. So one becomes more and more steady in the mind, more and more equanimous. Because if it's a drama, it's a play that is going on, let me do my role, but let me remain unaffected, because in reality I am the waker, nothing has happened. In the beginning this appears a little difficult to practice, no doubt, but as we reflect more about it, as we see this body, mind, intellect is changing, but the I in me doesn't change. So consciousness is not somewhere out there, it is that which is right here in my heart, is that infinite consciousness. And I am that consciousness, and Ganesha is that consciousness. So Ganesha is that consciousness who appears as this whole universe, who is the material cause of this whole universe, who is the intelligent cause of the whole universe, and who is realized by quietening this mind of ours. So the means of experiencing this also is given in this mantra, Tvam Chatvari Vakpadani. You are 4 stages of speech. Now see, even if you go to any public speaking course, they will not tell you these are 4 stages of speech. Maximum one will get trained in voice modulation and pronunciation and diction and pausing and timing and all those things, which has its own place, no doubt. Look at the masters, what they have gone into, what kind of depth have they gone into. There are 4 stages of speech: Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama and Vaikhari. 4 stages. So what is a Para stage? Suppose somebody is told now that you have to speak on how is the world created, or you have to speak on, let us say, the COVID crisis that we are going through right now. So some topic is given. Now suppose you have to speak. The first stage is the mind has no idea about the thoughts yet. It is in unmanifest state. All the thoughts are in unmanifest state. That is called para, where the thoughts are in unmanifest state. Then comes Pashyanti. Vaguely the thoughts one starts gathering. One starts thinking, what all can I talk? That is called Pashyanti, because one is vaguely able to perceive, okay, these, and some ideas will start forming in the mind. Then further one crystallizes it, and they become very clear ideas. Point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4. I will talk on these 4 points. So that is called Madhyama. And then with speech, one is actually able to speak. That is called Vaikhari. So this Vaikhari is the external manifestation of Para. From unmanifest to subtler manifestation to grosser manifestation to the grossest manifestation. So the speech has roots in the mind. Because if those thoughts are not there, one can't speak. That's why you will find some people, when they don't have coherence, between the thinking and speaking, then one can't make out what are they trying to say. So these are 4 stages. The subtlest stage is Para. That's why in the Upanishad there is a Shanti mantra. In the Vedas there is a Shanti mantra. Vang me manasi pratisthita, mano me vachi pratishtitam. The seeker is praying to the Lord that, O Lord, Vang me manasi pratisthita, may my speech abide in my mind, and may my mind follow what I have spoken, meaning may I keep up my word. So may I speak as per I think, and may what I speak be upheld by my thoughts, meaning be executed by my thoughts. So this speech and mind, they both are very closely connected. So from subtle to gross to grosser to grossest comes this 4 levels of speech. Tvam Chatvari Vak Padani. Who is that who is enlivening this speech? Not only the physical speech, but the unmanifest from thought onwards, it is consciousness alone. That's why we say if you trace the speech, the real source of speech, if you trace, it will go to the ultimate silence, which is the consciousness. The objective of Maun Vrat is to discover that consciousness. So when we do Maun Vrat, what happens generally is people just keep this speech quiet. That is only, Vaikhari. At the Vaikhari level, I am making my mind, my speech quiet, which has its impact, nothing wrong about it, but the mind is going on chattering. So the mind is very restless. So one goes also for some camp and some program or some retreat, 3 days silence, 5 days silence, 10 days silence. The objective of physical silence is to turn the mind introvert so that I don't become more and more talkative extrovert. So that I can introspect, I can sit quietly and slowly quieten these thoughts. So from Vaikhari to Madhyama to Pashyanti to Para, and the mind completely becomes still. In Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya ji said, this is the first step in sadhana, in yoga. Yogasya prathama dvaraha vang nirodha iti uchyate. Control of speech is the first step in yoga. Which yoga? This path of Jnana Yoga. To contemplate on the self, our mind's energies must be available. And this speech is the second largest consumer of energy. Physically also and mentally also. So if I am able to quieten, so the objective of Maun Vrat is not only that speech becomes Maun, but mind becomes Maun, to realize the Maun of the Atma. Atma Shanti is what we want to experience. Ganesha is that consciousness which empowers the mind, which manifests in the form of speech and words, which we use to communicate with the people around. So if I learn to control my speech, quieten my mind, I will come to realize this truth that Ganesha is that pure consciousness which appears as this whole universe, including this BMI, which empowers this BMI also. And my true self is that Ganesha. So now this was about the connection of the Lord with the creation. So at a simpler level, we can say that yes, God created this whole universe. But At a deeper level, we say God did not create the universe. God appears as the universe, and his appearance is an illusion. From the reality we have given to this world, to come to the level of illusion requires clarity and detachment. And when I start living in this world with the attitude that this is an illusion, I stop getting affected by it psychologically. Then I come to the third level where I understand that the world never got created. I alone am. The only one consciousness is. Like the waker realizes the dream was never there. It was just an illusion. That example has a limitation that dream happened at some point in time. But in this deepest level of realization, one says that there is no creation at all. So those are heights to which Vedanta lifts us. At a simpler level, what should we do? We should revere everything here as an appearance of the divine, live with a worshipful attitude, live in surrender to that Supreme Lord. Difficult circumstances, happy circumstances, in both learn to keep the mind equanimous, feel the grace of the Lord, be grateful to the Lord. And more I start inquiring who is that God. Slowly I will come to understand these aspects. So from getting disturbed by the problems in the world, trying, when one is irritated, frustrated, at those times, it will not be easy to understand this. Please remember that. If I have studied this before, if I have reflected on this before, I have made my mind quieter using my sadhana, then even in difficult times, this will be helpful. Like you see the lives of so many great masters. They also live in the same world. They also go through so many difficulties, including their own body may have tremendous amount of pain. But they live in that, absorbed in that absolute. Why? Because they have done that sadhana. They have quietened the mind. They have withdrawn the attention. They have reflected upon it. So these philosophies can be applied in those moments. When we are going through difficult times, then what should we apply? That there is an intelligent cause of this universe, that Lord knows what is the best. Let me not resist why this happened to me. Let me ask, how do I face it? Let me pray for strength from the Lord. That has come already before, where the devotee prays that Bhagwan protect me from above, from below, from the left, from the right. All that came already. So at those times, I seek protection, I seek grace, I pray for strength. I pray that please help me out of this. So these are different levels, and we should know at which level what we should apply. Now, having said that, Ganeshji is now also indicated as the transcendental absolute consciousness. This earlier mantra, mantra 5, spoke about him as the single undifferentiated cause of the whole universe. Now he is indicated as the absolute transcendent consciousness. So mantra 6 says, Tvam gunatrayatitaha, Tvam avasthatrayatitaha, Tvam dehatrayatitaha, Tvam kalatrayatitaha. This is Tvam gunatrayatitaha. You are beyond the three gunas. So what are the three gunas? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The entire variety we see in this illusory world is a combination of three gunas and 5 elements. This permutation and combination of these 8 aspects is what makes the whole universe. Because if you actually see, all our bodies are made up of same 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. Our mind is also made up of 5 elements. So if the raw material is same, how is it that there is a difference in this whole creation? The inert and the sentient, everything is made up of only one raw material, the 5 elements. So then how is it that there is still so much variety? Raw material is the same. The variety is because of the three gunas. Sattva guna is the guna of knowledge, peace, balance, creativity, innovation. Rajoguna is dynamism, activity, ambitions, goals, achievement, success, and it also has attachment, greed, insecurity, all these. And then there is tamoguna. So tamoguna is ignorance, laziness, lethargy, procrastination, carelessness, tamoguna. Now a combination of all these is what makes this whole universe. So I'm just going to share one very nice example that Puja Gurudev used to give about this aspect, about how the three gunas make up this whole universe, and used to give the example of coffee. But how this coffee example, so the three ingredients in the coffee remain the same, but each coffee is different from the other.
Nobody in the world has not got the nobody in the world or living being who has not got the gunas. All the three gunas are in everyone. A professional murderer and a wretched man, evil-minded man, even he has got sattvic moods. Even the greatest saint and sage has moments of tamas and rajas. All the three put together is called the human personality. Never can there be only one. Coffee means three things: decoction, milk and sugar. Three things mixed together is normal coffee, not American coffee. American coffee is anything they put there, some black powder, and keep on burning, boiling till evening and take it a little. What are you doing? Coffee. That is the tragedy of this country. Never mind. The real coffee is made artistically by mixing these three, and then you take coffee. No, right. Now, even though this coffee contains only three things, if you on a Saturday or Sunday visit 4 or 5 friends, Hindu friends, Indian friends, when you visit, whatever be the time or the day, they will not allow you to go out without coffee. Come on, let us have a little coffee. No, I don't want it. I just now had, never mind. I just now had food. Good. Digestion, coffee is good. No, I have just now go and take food. Very good. Is a appetizer. You won't be allowed to go without taking coffee. You go in 4 or 5 places, take coffee. Every coffee contains the three. But no 2 coffees are the same. Thai. Go to a South Indian coffee. The coffee is coffee. But it is all decoction. Milk pot and sugar pot have been brought around it, not inside it. That is called the South Indian coffee. Gujarati, go there. Ayya. The sugar dabba when you was putting, it just gone falling. Sugar, oh sugar. Punjabi coffee. A cup or glass of milk and 1 drop of coffee, one end, and sugar. And that coffee, they won't shake it because it will spread, and then take that milk only. Coffee is only a witness that I am here. Meaning, the proportion of one to the other give different tastes. In the same way, these three gunas are in every one of you, but the preponderance of one over the other gives the various tastes, the various performances, various perfume of your personality.
So that was a very nice and humorous example Gurudev gives. So this whole universe, the whole variety we find is because of these three gunas. 5 elements, 3 gunas. Their combination gives this whole variety. Now, how do we know these 3 gunas exist? Because we are seeing the effect is having these 3 gunas. We see inertia. So our body itself is the example of that. The body goes through laziness, inertia, sloth, all that. The pranas are functioning. So the body has tamas, the prana is rajas. There's a lot of energy, activity. And the mind has knowledge, sattva. So one personality itself is a combination of sattva, rajas, tamas. Like that, the whole creation. Where are these 3 gunas found? These 3 gunas are the power of Prakriti, which we call as nature in the world. In Vedanta, we call it as Maya, Prakriti. So this Maya and this Prakriti, they are power of whom? Of that consciousness. Like we have a power, I have a power of speaking and I am speaking. That power has a locus in me. You have the power of listening and you are listening. So the locus of that power is you. The power is not existing independently and manifesting. So when people say that I don't believe in God, I believe in nature. What is nature? Nature is not some just inert power. That power has a locus, which is an intelligent cause, which is the consciousness. So in consciousness is this power of Maya, which creates this whole universe, which makes the consciousness appear as this whole universe. And in that appearance, there are all these 3 gunas, 5 elements. When it is said that the Lord is beyond the 3 gunas, Tvam gunatraya titaha, it means that consciousness is unaffected by 3 gunas. In each of us, there is that essence which never gets affected by the 3 gunas. The body, mind, intellect may go through 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. But the true self in us is unaffected by these 3, which science today calls it the ultimate observer, which is consciousness. That ultimate observer observes the mind is going through laziness, the body is right now very active, the intellect is right now imagining creatively. So the observer only observes. It doesn't get affected by any of these 3. That consciousness is Ganesha. So Tvam gunatraya titaha. Tvam avasthatraya titaha. You are beyond the 3 states of consciousness. See, before I came to Vedanta, I did not even know that there are 3 states of consciousness. Many of us don't know that. We think there is waking state, dream state. There is a 3rd state called deep sleep, which is dreamless sleep, which is what we all want, because that is what refreshes us. The dream state empties the subconscious mind, makes it ready for the next day. But what rejuvenates and refreshes us is the deep sleep state, which today people call it as power nap. Dreamless sleep, power nap, where the mind becomes quiet, no thoughts, no emotions. One experiences a lot of bliss. Why? Because this disturbing factor called the mind, the troublemaker, is quiet right now. So the most notorious person also looks very cute when that person is sleeping. The moment that person wakes up, finished. All hell breaks loose. Why? Because now the troublemaker, the mind, has started. So waking, dream and deep sleep, these are the 3 states in which one travels. And have you observed that the identity in the waking is different? In the dream, we take up so many new identities. And in deep sleep, there is no identity at all. So if our identity goes on changing, how is it that we remember our dream and we remember that I did not have any dream in deep sleep state? Because the experiencer is changing, the identity is changing. So there has to be one changeless factor amidst all the three, which is just the observer, which observes the changes that these entities are going through. That is consciousness. So when he says here, Tvam avastha trayatitaha, Ganeshji is considered as beyond the three states of consciousness. He is the consciousness who is not the waker, not the dreamer, not the deep sleeper, who is a witness of these three. So in us, it is that pure consciousness. And how do I recognize that? If I quieten my mind, I enter into the samadhi avastha, that is called turiya, the fourth state of consciousness. That is the goal of life. So when the mind completely becomes still and dissolves in that state, it realizes that there is, all this is just an appearance, it is not real at all. It just dissolves completely. What remains? Consciousness alone remains. So that is called the fourth state, Turiya Avastha. And that is the basis of the three. It is called fourth in connection to the three, but it is not actually fourth. It is the foundation, the basis of all the three. And this is the reason why Ganeshji is equated to Omkar. When we say Om, and we say Ganeshji is Pranava Swarup, Omkara Swarupa Rupa Ganeshache. The form of Lord Ganesha is equated to Omkar. Why? Because A, U and Ma, they represent the waking, dream and deep sleep. And the silence which is there between the two Oms is the Turiya Avastha. And it is that silence which is there even as the basis of A, U and Ma. So before chanting Om, there is silence. While chanting Om also there is silence, but we are not recognizing it. And after chanting Om, again there is silence. So when we do a sadhana, suppose we chant Om, Om, Om. One type of sadhana is to focus on the sound of Om and not allow the mind to wander and understand Om to be consciousness. A deeper level of sadhana is to focus on the silence before Om, during Om, after Om. There is one silence which pervades. That silence is consciousness. Just like there is one consciousness which pervades the waking, dream and deep sleep. I am not the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. So that is called contemplation on Om. So Ganeshji is equated to Om because of this. So Tvam Gunatrayatitaha, Tvam Avasthatrayatitaha, Tvam Dehatrayatitaha. You are beyond the three bodies. Now we thought we have one body. Vedanta says no, we have three bodies. This one body is the grossest body. This is made up of 5 gross elements, which is perceptible to the senses. But we have a subtle body, which is constituted of 19 elements. The 5 capabilities of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching. They are called 5 senses of knowledge. Then 5 senses of action. Grasping, moving, speaking, evacuating, reproducing. So 5 senses of action. 5 pranas. Inhalation, exhalation, circulation, assimilation, ejection. 5 pranas they are. Mind, seat of emotions. Intellect, seat of thoughts. Memory, all our data which we have stored, memory. And ahankar, the psychological sense of I. So 5 senses of knowledge, 5 senses of action, 5 pranas and 4 aspects of the mind. Mind, intellect, memory, ego. These 19 aspects constitute our subtle body. And the cause of both these, subtle body and gross body, is called causal body, which is our latent impressions or vasanas and ignorance of the self. So when this gross body completes its tenure, when the karmas for which it was taken gets exhausted, no matter what the condition of the gross body is, this gross body will drop. Young, old, any condition it may be, it will just drop. The subtle body and the causal body, they will get out of this gross body and take another form. That's why in the Gita the example is changing the clothes, dropping the old clothes, taking the new ones. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. So who is that who is enlivening these three bodies? How is it the eye is able to see, the ears are able to hear? It is because there is a subtle body in us which is enlivened by consciousness. Like the electricity passes through the wire, comes into the bulb, and there's a filament. The tungsten filament is there. It will go into that, then the light comes. So in that same way, our subtle body is illumined by consciousness, which further attaches to gross body, then the gross body can function. At death, what happens? Subtle body goes out of the gross body. So even though it is existent, it cannot respond. The gross body cannot respond because the equipment is gone. The subtle body who was responding till now ejected out of the body and went. So that's what happens at the time of death. All the three bodies, the thoughts in us, the feelings in us, the vasanas in us, and the actions at the body level, all these are illumined by consciousness. And consciousness remains unaffected by any of this. See, today we are affected by all these. Our actions affect us. The results of action affect us. The thoughts affect us. The emotions affect us. Our ego keeps going up and down. Our memories torment us sometimes, or they create pleasure in our mind. So we are completely identified with this gross body, subtle body. Our ignorance affects us when I don't know who I am. So I'm bound, I'm deluded. So we are today affected by all the three bodies, all the three states, all the three gunas. What the Upanishad here is saying, you are beyond these three. Tvam avasthatrayatitaha, tvam dehatrayatitaha. You are the consciousness because of whom these function. Why are you getting persecuted by these? Though here it is addressed to Lord Ganesha, but that Lord Ganesha is consciousness in us. So tvam dehatrayatitaha, tvam kalatrayatitaha is also beyond three periods of time: past, present, and future. Because time is a concept of our mind. As long as mind is there, time is there. When mind is not there, time is not there. Because if you see the definition of time, the chronological time outside is defined as a gap between two events. That's how we can measure time. Unless two events are not there, we cannot measure time. And unless two points are not there, we cannot measure distance. So time is measured as the gap between two events, chronological time. Chronological time is not a problem actually. What is a problem is psychological time. When our mind is interested in something, time flies very fast. But when the mind is not able to understand or it is not interested, then one keeps looking, oh my God, how much time more, how much time more. So that psychological time is what binds us. Here it is said consciousness is beyond the time. It is timeless, it is eternal, meaning it is changeless. Time means change, time means death. So every minute when I am bound by time means I am continuously perishing. In the Gita, Bhagavan says, in the 11th chapter, he tells Arjun, Kalosmi lokak shayakrit pravriddha. I am the Kala, I am the all-devouring time, which consumes the whole universe. Even when Einstein said that the whole universe is in a state of flux, what he meant is this universe bound by space and time continuum, that is continuously changing, continuously perishing. Consciousness is away from that. Away meaning it is unaffected by that. It is eternal. So tvam dehatrayatitaha, tvam kalatrayatitaha. So for today, we will stop here. Anything you want to ask, you want to share? You are welcome.
Just one question, Swamiji, that you said, consciousness, and you talked about Ganesh. So can we not substitute Ganesh with any other god? I mean, wouldn't this description be valid for Mahesh or for Vishnu, Krishna?
It is applicable to all forms.
Oh.
That's why we say Krishna consciousness. So in Gita it will be Krishna. In Vishnu Puran it will be Vishnu Bhagwan. In Shiva Puran it will be Shiva who is consciousness. So it can be substituted with any form. See, the point is that only that when we understand this very deeply, then all forms are appearances of consciousness only, including our form. So we can worship any form in the universe. We don't need only Ganesha or Shiva. We can worship this flask also, because this is also appearance of consciousness only. Like Prahladji, he saw Bhagwan in that pillar also. He did not have a doubt. Hiranyakashipu has a doubt, is your God in the pillar? Prahladji has no doubt. He said, yes, God is in that pillar also. So that is the devotee's bhav. But then why we need specific forms? Because they invoke certain emotions in us.
Yeah.
So this also helps us to understand that our culture is not phonetic. So all forms appearance of one consciousness only. So any form we revere. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.